Hello everyone, and thank you all for tuning in yet again to another episode of Unpack the Gifted. I have a very special guest with us here today. I feel like in a world of perspective, I think he has the most knowledge and the greatest perspective to give as far as Chicago's violence, how it impacts families, how it impacts our communities, CPS, CPD, the connection between those two people, and just the community as a whole and in general. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guest, Mr. Ralph Bennett.
Thank you for having me. And before we get started, I just have to say, let you know how proud I am of you as being one of my former students, and to see you in this light, chasing your dream and accomplishing your goals. It warms my heart when I see my former students doing well. Absolutely.
Thank you. Don't make me cry. But thank you so much. And that was a big reason why I brought you here, because I don't want to give too much about me, but just give a little bit of your role that you played in Hyde Park, because that's where we met, Hyde Park, 2008-ish. But you were there prior to 2008. When did you start, and what was your role in Hyde Park?
I actually started at Hyde Park Academy in the 06-07 school year. I was recruited there specifically to be the dean of students. Prior to that, I was at Inglewood High School, the old Inglewood High School, not the new one that they changed and got different schools in there. I was there when it was Inglewood High School, and at the time that I was there, they had an Achievement Academy in there. That was a program that CPS had going in the early 2000s, where students who didn't graduate from 8th grade properly, maybe they aged out, maybe they didn't test well, they were put into an Achievement Academy for 2 years, and then once they caught up, they fell right in with their junior class. Okay, so I was the dean for the Achievement Academy at Inglewood, and Mr. Thomas Trotter, who eventually became the principal at Hyde Park, who was then the assistant principal, one of the assistant principals at Hyde Park, recruited me to be the dean.
Okay. And just tell me a little bit about your experience as first the dean over in Inglewood and then the dean at Hyde Park. Was there a difference?
Absolutely. There was absolutely a difference. When I became the dean at Inglewood, I had never been a dean before. The only thing that I had going for me was the fact that I was able to relate to our students, because I came from the same place that they came from.
Exactly.
Okay, so I grew up in the same streets that they grew up in. So being an educator, taking what you've learned from growing up in the city of Chicago and combining that with the knowledge that you get from going to a university and graduating, becoming a teacher, I was able to couple that and use it to really connect with students. So much so that I had students who according to administration at Inglewood, they weren't really able to do a whole lot with them as far as structure, as far as getting them to follow instructions. And so I'm a PE teacher, of course. I would take my students out onto that plaza in front of Inglewood High School, and we would be out there doing activities, and I'd have them lined up, and everybody was laughing, and people were enjoying themselves, and kids were following instructions. And when you would look at the building, you would see teachers and students and staff just looking out onto the plaza as if they were observing some type of spectacle. And what I later found was that they've never seen anyone come in and have those students to follow instructions like that. So they tapped me to be the dean for the Achievement Academy. It's, something I never thought that I would ever be doing. But I started there, and again, Mr. Thomas Strider recruited me to be the dean at Hyde Park in the 06-07 school year.
Okay, that's amazing. That's actually very impressive. And as you were just talking about the experience at Inglewood, I could see how you could get the kind of like worst of students to engage and be more involved.
Absolutely, they're my homies.
Exactly, because
they're my homies, my cousins, my little nephew, him. I grew up with that. Like I can relate.
Exactly.
I know what to say.
Exactly, you got that personal connection, and I never forget like being in 210. Sometimes you kind of, I felt like you used to show pity on me because I had this sad look in my face, like, can I go back to class? And you'll be like, go, Miss Williams.
You was sweet. So I always knew that back then.
So my audience don't know what 210 is in Hyde Park, but anybody that went to Hyde Park, we all know what 210 is.
Okay.
But I want you to tell us what 210 is in Hyde Park.
Wow, that is a question there, boy. Okay, all right, let me break down the history of 210. Okay, so when I started in the 06 school year at Hyde Park Academy, the discipline office was a room on the first floor, right behind the desk when you first enter the main entrance from the Stony Island side. And it was barely twice the size of this space that we're in right now. Now, mind you, at that time, Hyde Park had over 2,300 students enrolled. And it was also a period of time where it was faced with numerous challenges in regards to discipline and the climate of the school as a whole. And so when I got there, Mr. Trotter and myself realized two things. First of all, that's not enough space.
Yeah.
You can't run a successful discipline program out of a closet.
Exactly.
Okay. Two, the optics of it were terrible because that was not far from the main office and the main entrance. So when you have problems, fights, okay, teachers having issues with students, and you're bringing them to the main entrance and right past the main office, that's just not a good look.
Yeah.
So we needed to find somewhere else in the building that provided us enough space and that was not necessarily off the beaten path, but wasn't at the main entrance.
Yeah.
Okay, so 210 fit that bill. 210 was a old theater room, a theater lecture hall. People didn't notice about 210, but 210, where my desk sat, there was a partition that could open up, and there's a big glass there. The room that you know is the police room, which is on the other side. Yeah. There was a film projector that was set up in that room. It was still there when we started 210, and before the police came up to 210, because they initially wanted to stay downstairs.
Right.
And it took us a couple years to get them to come up there where we were. But before they came, the projector was still there, so they would project film onto that glass, and out in the lecture area where people would sit when I would bring y'all in for like fights and tardy passes and stuff, hall sweeps, okay? They could see that image being projected on the glass. But that was decades ago that they had that at Hyde Park Academy. But in any case, we used that room, which at the time was full of file cabinets and boxes and books, just piled high to the ceiling. Just a dirty room. We cleared that out and made 210.
Yeah.
Made 210.
Yeah.
And so that's how 210 got started. But 210 was basically the catch-all for anything that was wrong in the building. Okay, as far as climate, as far as discipline, we wanted everything that was going on like that to come to 210,
right,
so that teachers and students who wanted to could focus on learning. Yeah. And many times I would have parents that would come in to see me, and because there was so much going on in 210, and it would be loud, and it might be a fight going on, and the police had, kids in the room that were fighting or whatever, waiting for parents to come, and you just have that random mother that will come in and look around and say, this school is crazy. I can't believe y'all got all this going on up in this school. And I'll come with me, mother.
Right.
And I would take that parent out of 210.
Yeah.
And we'd walk around the second floor. And I'd have them look into classrooms. I say, look in this classroom. Can you see what's going on in there? And it would be a teacher teaching and students learning.
Yeah.
And kids will be engaged, paying attention.
Yeah.
Come on, mother. Walk around. Show a classroom. Show the gym. Show different spaces in the school.
Yeah.
And then we come back to 210 and I say, you see here?
Yeah.
This is where I keep all of this so that we can learn in this building.
Yeah.
So I know it appears as if it's the whole school, but it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I didn't know all that about 210. I when you said that, I remember the setup because it was like layers. How we had set up, you'll go all the way to the top and sit, and then it's another row and another row. I could imagine that being that way. So that make me think, like prior to us coming here right now, I was telling you that we were going to discuss CPS and CPD, like how they put so much money, like millions of dollars, into having CPD come and be a part of CPS to like monitor the kids.
Okay.
So have you guys ever thought, like even with that room, right? Have you guys ever thought that there was an alternative way opposed to just having CPD presence there? Is it another way to like attack the issue of like the outbursts and the fights and things like that? Another way to like reprimand the students opposed to just sending them to 210 and doing things like that? Because I was reading an article about people having meditation classes. So if there's a confrontation, whoever was in the confrontation, they go in the gym room, get a yoga mat, sit down, relax, channel their thoughts and things like that. And when I think about all the money they put into CPD's presence at CPS, I'm like, I think a third of that budget can go towards them bringing in different approaches to like disciplining these kids, and not just discipline them, fixing the issue sometimes, you know. So I guess my question will be, do you think that there's room or opportunity for CPS to like not renegotiate but reconsider the way that they go about the budget with the discipline for the students?
Absolutely, I do. And here's the reason. It's because of what we were talking about earlier about things being better now. Okay.
Exactly.
So police in schools, what we know to be police in schools, was implemented at a different time in Chicago public schools. A time when there was a lot more violence present and criminal behavior present. So I'm going to say that when I first came to Hyde Park Academy, if I didn't have the help of the police, we would have been in big trouble.
I believe it.
If the police weren't sitting in the next room, we would have had a lot of problems that we couldn't deal with. And it's not that we were just simply locking people up or anything like that. They were used as a tool. You know, a lot of times people look at police in schools and they think, oh, they just want to lock them kids up and you know, things of that nature. But if you have police that genuinely care about students the way we do, the way our police did, then it does not have to be something negative.
Exactly.
More often than not, we use the police room as a therapy room.
That's true.
Because what we would do is we get these kids coming to 10, they're on 10, they're bouncing off the walls and they're going crazy, you know, using profanity, trying to fight, whatever. We get them in the police room. They might even end up in handcuffs because of their behavior.
That's true.
But the goal is to get them out of those handcuffs by talking to them.
Yeah.
Now, once we began talking to that student and having conversations, we, with the police, asking questions as well, begin to engage that student and try to find out what's going on. Why are we here at this point? The police room wasn't just to take kids in there and start doing paperwork on them. It was used as a tool, to get their attention. You see you in handcuffs, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. Now let's talk about it.
Exactly.
One of those kind of things.
Right.
So there is now, with less incidents going on in say Hyde Park and other schools, neighborhood schools, you can now begin to divert some of those funds to alternative programs and practices of which you speak, and they could definitely, those funds could be utilized in that manner for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So do you know anything about restorative justice?
Yes, I do.
Just tell me a little bit about what you think if we were to bring that type of approach to, do you think this, because we keep saying like we think it's a different time now, the students may be ready now, and restorative justice is not as extreme as seeing a cop. So like, do you think that approach would be appropriate or even a possibility?
Okay, what the process that I just explained to you was restorative justice.
Yeah.
Okay, restorative justice simply refers to a way to have a positive outcome when it comes to discipline and climate issues in schools. So when the term restorative justice became sexy in say 2011, 12, 13, 14, up in there somewhere, this is something that we had been doing at Hyde Park all along. It just was not in the same format that they created restorative justice in. However, we were doing those same things. We would bring kids. You remember the meetings we would have to have after there was a big fight? We'd bring all the kids in with their parents, and everybody would sit down, and you got to tell what was going on, and we got to talk to the children, and the parents got to be there and hear the children and what they had to say. Okay, that's restorative justice.
Yeah.
We were doing that in 06.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's definitely a place for restorative justice, but it takes time.
Yeah.
Restorative justice takes a lot of time and effort.
It does.
If you have a climate in the school where you have something being brought through the doors of the discipline office every 90 seconds, you as the dean can't be responsible for restorative justice.
Exactly.
And that's what they had proposed at Hyde Park, was that I spearhead that. But I told them that if you would like a restorative justice program, you need to get someone here to be responsible for it.
Yeah.
Because I'm responsible for everything that's coming through that door.
Exactly.
And I can't stop and have an hour and a half conversation with two children when I have 1,800, 2,000 kids in the building.
Yeah.
So it has its place. It definitely does. And I believe in that practice. I believe in sitting down and talking to kids and having kids come to an understanding of where they are and why they're there.
Yeah.
You know, that's the whole goal and objective as an educator. You're trying to teach children. You're trying to teach them a better way, a different way to problem solve. So, yeah, I believe in restorative justice, and I think it definitely has a place in Chicago public schools.
Great. That's great. That's great with the restorative justice piece, and even with the CPD aspect, because you really just put it into perspective for me, because in all honesty, I was outraged when I read the article, like they put this much money into CPD being at CPS. But now that you just gave me another perspective, it's like, okay, I do remember the big fights, the horrific moments that happened at Hyde Park, and maybe it was necessary, you know. So if times change, then let's roll with the times. And like opening up that door to like the horrific times at Hyde Park, I think that make me think about my class who graduated in 2012, and then a few people that graduated after us. It's kind of sad thinking back on the class of like 2012 in like 012, 13, 11, because a lot of them are deceased. And I remember one year, it had to be about 2014, I was coming because I needed a transcript, and I just wanted to walk around the building just to say hey. And I came up to your office in 210 and I saw all of these pictures of all of these people, and when I looked, I'm like, he died. And I'm like, what is this about? So then I was like, Mr. Bennett, what is this? And you were busy. You're like, well, that's the students who passed away. And I kind of got upset, like, well, you don't have him up there. You're like, wait a minute, I'm not just about to put somebody up here and claim he dead if he ain't dead. So I'm like,
you gotta check it out,
right? So I'm like, Mr. Bennett, he just died, and this, that, and the third. And then when you was telling me about it, I'm like, all of these people passed, and I think you were saying that it was more. That, you know, and I just want to know, how does that impact you? As like a as the dean, because I'm quite sure it affects teachers that built relationship with these students, and then to find out they passed away or was murdered due to the violence in the city of Chicago. How does that affect you as a dean?
Well, it's not that it affects me as a dean, it affects me as a person.
Exactly.
Because again, I grew up on 63rd Street, West Englewood, and grew up losing friends.
Yeah.
Okay. And culturally, we like to recognize when our friends and family pass away, more so when they get killed.
Yeah.
You use the word passed.
Yeah.
And I would always check the students when talking about students that were on this wall, which I'll explain the wall in just a second.
Yes.
I would always check students when they would say, he passed away. I would tell them, no, he didn't pass away. He was killed.
Exactly.
Okay? Which is what the wall was about, which paid homage to our students and their students' friends, okay, classmates that had been killed. Yeah. All right? And so from the 06 school year, when I first became the dean at Hyde Park Academy, to 2016, 10 years later, all right, I kept track of all of my students, present and former students. If they were there between 06 and 16, I kept track of who got killed. Yeah. Okay, so during that time, it was to the last day of the school year. Someone that came in and said, Mr. Bennett, did you know that such and such passed away or died, got killed? Yeah. All right. And I said no. And so it was the last day of school, and I put number 50 on the wall. And I referred to those students, that wall which had those students on it, as the 50. Yeah. Okay, because it was 50 students to the date, 10 years that I was the dean at Hyde Park Academy. And so that wall served as a memorial, and it also served as a tool. Yeah. Okay, I use that wall to teach. Yeah. All right. And when you have students who say are in a hall sweep and they have to come in and sit down and wait for the halls to clear, they're sitting there, and it's something about when you're seeing people that you knew, that you went to school with, and you see their picture on the wall and you know they got killed. Yeah. It makes students become introspective about what they have going on in their lives, if used the proper way. Right. Which I would refer to that wall, and I would tell them sometimes, hey, you see that person right there? That person was sitting in that same seat that you're sitting in. Okay? And what you have to do as a student is you have to examine what's going on in your life, because if that person was here and you're here, what's the difference in the outcome? It could be the same if you're not monitoring what's going on in your life and keeping in check your behaviors. Yeah. You may go down that same path. Yeah. And I would do that with students and with mothers who would be having problems with, say, a son, being unruly, and I would bring the son and the mother and put him up in front of the wall and say, hey man, you know, to see that dude right there, he did this. He was doing the same stuff you doing, man. And we had him here in 210 talking to his mom, and he wouldn't listen, man. And he didn't expect that he was gonna get up and walk outside and get killed, but it happened. So you know, I use it as a tool like that, and use it to reach a lot of kids. Yeah.
Is it effective?
Absolutely. It's effective in that to this day you have students that will every once in a while comment on I used to post it on Facebook too, the wall, and one of my largest reactions that I ever got for a post was a post that I made about, you know, one of my students that had passed away, and I put a picture up of the wall on Facebook, and to this day it has like one of the biggest reactions I ever got. And so to this day people will go back and they'll, you know, pull up or like or comment on a certain one, because I would highlight individually the student that got killed, and then have a picture of the wall as a whole. And so every once in a while people go on there and they'll make a comment or like it. So it's still, the effect of the wall is still out there. Students remember it, because I'm not sure if you were ever there for one. I would even have memorial ceremonies. Like when a student would pass away, I would invite their classmates for their year. If it was a senior or what have you, you know, on the senior lunch period, we would have a very brief memorial, and we put the picture up on the wall, and the students could come in and be a part of the memorial, you know, to help say goodbye to their friend. You know, and a lot of times it was sad, but people remember it. People appreciated it. Right.
I think the first death that happened in Hyde Park that I could remember, and it may be people before this person, but his name was Carlton Tutu. He
was not the first. He was far down on the list, but
I think he died in 2010 or 2011. I was a sophomore in high school, and he probably wasn't the first, but he was one of the ones that I knew. Like I had a class with him, so that's when I'm like, it was like kind of real, like, you know, it was you know. So, and then like after him, I think junior year or maybe it was sophomore year, and I may get his name wrong, Faison or the one who played ball, he got killed. And I remember over the intercom, you guys like had us do like moment of silence, and it broke the whole school down. It broke the whole school down. Like we was having conversations that were like so out of the box for us. Like we all started just saying like, man, I miss my auntie, I miss my uncle, my cousin passed away, and it opened up a whole different type of healing for all of us, and put a lot of things into perspective. That whole day, I think it probably wasn't no fights that day. Probably wasn't even an argument. It was just like, you know, we was given time to like reflect on it. So thank you for that. Like if that's what you're doing now in the schools, I think that's huge. I think that's huge, because it's more than an education piece when you go to school. It's that social, emotional, you know, development, and then that making sure people are that feeling you got to give their kids to let them know we also care about your well-being. You know, so I want to thank you for that and everything that you're doing to give back to those students. And another thing that I wanted to talk about was King Davon.
Okay.
Now he was my classmate, and like I go outside and probably hang out with them a little bit. And when he died, and then it was somebody that died like before him, CJ Levon Everhart. I don't know if you remember him, but his death saddens me all the time. Like I get so emotional because I just can't believe it. And then when Davon got killed, it was very sad and traumatic as well. And I always want to know, like, does it impact anybody else the same way? We wasn't buddy friends, but I knew this guy. And when I saw you speak about him, like, man, Hyde Park is just losing a lot of students. I'm like, I wanted to get your perspective. How do you feel about that?
Okay, so about Davon at Hyde Park Academy, I never had any issues with Davon King Von, okay, never had any issues with him at Hyde Park Academy. He wasn't really there that long, as most people know. He was really only there like maybe his freshman, a little bit of his sophomore year. But he was just this skinny little kid. He had some little cornrows that went to the back. That's how I remembered him, you know. And I even lately, what I've been doing, because I'm not the disciplinarian anymore. I'm not in 210. I don't have a place to display my memorial wall for students or anything like that. So lately what I've been doing is I'll go and I'll pull up their high school photos. And I'll pay tribute to them by posting. And I made a post for King Von, and it was very eerie pulling up his photo because after I pulled it up, I realized, and at Hyde Park we only use freshman photos. You keep your same freshman photo for 4 years.
Terrible.
People hate that. But we take your picture one time when you were a freshman, and you're going to have that for 4 years, okay? So when pulling up Davon, who has my same last name, by the way, Davon Bennett, and it was funny because sometimes he would come to the discipline office for a tardy pass, and you had to scan your ID, and the machine would print out a pass, and his name would come up on the screen, Davon Bennett, and I would look at him, I'd say, you know you're not no kin to me, right? And I would mess with him like that. He'll just laugh and walk away. But the thing with Davon, when pulling his picture up, it was very eerie because I realized that I took that picture. There was a couple of years at Hyde Park Academy where I was doing everything. I was printing IDs, I was taking ID pictures. I mean, they was working me to the bone. But that year that those pictures were taken, I'm pretty sure you're included in there as well. I'm gonna pull yours up, okay?
Please,
and I'm gonna send it to you. But that year, I took the pictures that year, and if you look at this picture and look into Davon's eyes, you already know he was going through a lot. The picture is just so deep. For him to be a freshman, a little kid, 14 years old, and just the look in his eyes, it was haunting to me to know that I took that picture of him, and to know that he had been killed far too soon, cut down in the streets. I believe that, I really believe that King Von lyrically far surpassed many Chicago artists.
Absolutely.
Okay? Skill wise, as far as delivery, perhaps not. I mean, he can't go round for round with Twista, okay? But in reference to the stories that he would tell as an artist, I think he had some of the most well-crafted art of any Chicago rapper thus far.
I believe that.
He was very talented. And so when he got killed, it just broke my heart. It broke my heart. I just knew that King Von was about to take Chicago to a whole other level when it came to rap music and artists from Chicago. He was going to go there. He was going to be our Jay-Z, I believe. Really.
That's terrible. It's debatable because I really believe that out of everybody in Chicago, he's one of my top favorite artists. So you said something about he couldn't go round for round with Twisted, and that's debatable, but not today. And then to give a little light to this moment, because I feel like we've been talking about a lot of like darkness, and although it's darkness, it's also light and positivity, because we have King Louie, who came from Hyde Park, then we have G-Herbo, Lil Herb, and those guys are pretty successful, and like all of those people was in 210 with you. And I'm like, when you said that, I had to think about it. I was sitting and you had me stuck on your page, and I'm like, it's something that came from Hyde Park. And when I was trying to tie it all together, I left it in a comment on your page. I'm like, 210. And it's like, is it 210 that molded us, or is it like 210 got all of the people that needed more work on how to craft their artistic side? Because sometimes if you're not feeding one side, it dies. Because if we're not able to feed our artistic side, it'll die. So are we acting out because we have another way of expressing ourselves, and we acting out, we all ended up in 210? Did it help mold us? What do you think about that? Because I think it's something to that.
It's something to it. It is. And I've been, trying to figure out exactly what it is. I have an idea. The post that you're referring to is a post where I propose, is there any other high school in the city of Chicago that was it, that have more rap artists than Hyde Park Academy?
That was it.
And honestly, I don't think that there are. And so I asked for people to go ahead and chime in on that post about who came out of Hyde Park. And so I had like at least 24 people to respond that are working on a career in rap music or are artists themselves. And so in regards to, I can only speak for myself as far as Hyde Park. I know that it was a team effort with many people, all the way from the clerks in the office to security to teachers, to counselors, and everyone at Hyde Park Academy to help those students along the way. But as far as myself, being a person who came along and witnessed the birth of hip hop, and who was affected so greatly, like many other people who were born in the 70s, came of age in the 80s and 90s, and were influenced by hip hop. Like, I'm a fan. And so anytime I would have students that showed any inkling of having any talent whatsoever, even if they weren't talented, I would still encourage them if they were brave enough to say, Mr. Bennett, I wrote this rhyme, you want to hear it?
Right.
Man, let me break. And then sometimes I would assist them, and I'd say, where's your hook? How many bars is that? Okay, I say, next time come to me, I want you to have 16 bars and a hook. And they be like, okay, all right. And then it would help them work on their craft, right? And then you mentioned Herbert, G-Herbo. I'm not gonna say his government name. I'm not gonna say it. He'll be mad at me. But anyway, you mentioned Herbert. So Herbert, he was one of those students. He started in his neighborhood, doing his thing, just messing around with his guys and stuff. And so it turned out that he had some skill. And so he would come to me in the office, hey, Mr. Bennett, check this out. We recorded this last night. What you think? And I mean, this is real early on. We talking about like 2011. Way back 2010, way back then. And he would come sit down in the office with me and bounce stuff off me, and we would sit there and we would talk about what it would be like for him once he became successful as an artist. And I would say, absolutely. And I would tell, I was like, you're gonna have to be on the lookout for this. You're gonna have to do this. Hey, you're gonna have to do this. And we would talk about it, and all these years later, it did manifest itself. It did become true. It came true. All the things that we were talking about. But I myself would try to help mold those artists by giving them either a platform if they wanted to perform. I even would record students that would battle, and I would post it on YouTube. Okay. And so that was my part in regards to the artists at the school. And so I think one of the reasons that we had more artists come out of Hyde Park probably than any other high school, and it's up for debate if anybody wants to challenge Hyde Park. Hey, y'all welcome. You can try to come to Hyde Park talking about y'all got more rappers than us. I don't think you're gonna do it, but anyway, I think that's the reason, because they would see me, those students that had talent, and maybe just were a little shy and didn't know how to express themselves, but were aspiring, they would see how I would interact with her, and some other artists that were there during the time, and they would say, "Wow, you know, Mr. Bennett, he liked that. It's cool. You can bring your rap, and he'll listen to you." And so I think they saw that, and so it encouraged them to be open about their art as well, and it inspired a lot of artists, especially when Herb began to experience success.
Yes,
because once they saw that. And you know, you had Louis. Louis was actually before me.
Yeah.
He I think he was like class of 05 or something like that, right? And so he was gone before I got there. But that still lends to the history of artistry at Hyde Park Academy. The fact that he was one of the first drill rappers.
Yeah.
All right. He did come from Hyde Park Academy. All right. And then, you know, Herb after him. And when students saw that, they became inspired.
Yes.
You know, it's just like when you live in a neighborhood somewhere, and if you have guys there that are good basketball players, they're going to inspire other little kids in that neighborhood, and those kids are going to be trying to play basketball because they just saw J-Mo and them over there going to the league.
Exactly.
I said, man, I can
all
do
the
it too.
inspiration I need.
Hey, man, let me get down. Just throw these hoops up.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So I really, truly think that's what happened at Hyde Park and why we have so many artists.
So many.
I got to figure out we got to do a concert or something. I'm serious. Like we have so many talented artists out there.
Absolutely. And like when I think about her, I remember, and he got a song that's not going nowhere that he first came out with, and he made it with Lil Baby. It's called Kill Shit.
Okay.
But and when I first heard that song, I'm like, I don't remember seeing this little boy around Hyde Park. Like,
he was there.
I'm like,
I was telling people about him.
I'm like, yeah, this is song. Oh, okay, this is song. Oh, okay, this is song. And this song came out years ago. And and whenever me and my friends get together and we want to be a little ratchet, we throw that song on.
Okay,
and I'm like, and I'm proud. I'm real proud. I feel like this, you know, and I tell people like, I went to school with him. They like, no, you didn't. Get out of here. I'm like, I did. I ain't know him like that, but I went to school with him, so we was around a little bit, and that feeling is amazing. It's a real amazing feeling.
It is.
And I'm proud of like what he's doing, because I saw a video when he came back and visited Hyde Park, and he was with you, he was with Miss Jackson, he was with a couple of more council clerks in the office, and he went and he was with the students, and I know that had to be like the best feeling to those students ever, and just showing your presence is, I feel like, giving back to your community. But I recently read an article that he purchased an abandoned school and is trying to fix it up for recreational purposes. So how do you feel about that? You know, because not only like his music is inspiring, but he's still doing things like in the community to but to help out and to give back.
Absolutely. And that documentary that you're referring to, that her City of Sorrow, if you watch the interview that I gave in that video, it explains exactly what you're talking about now in reference to her.
I never watched it.
Okay. I speak about her in City of Sorrow, and I explain how, as an educator, you begin to understand kids by being around them, interacting with them.
Yep.
And one of the things that I got from her a long time ago, even though I had to suspend him with 21 other boys that was fighting all over the building, and had to have the police come from all parts of the South Side into our building to regain order. All right, even though he was part of that, he was also a very good kid at heart. Yeah. You can tell when you around a mean kid,
you can feel
it. Know it. You know when you got mean kids, and that kid that don't care and don't have nothing to lose, and will you better watch him.
Yeah.
Okay. Or you know when you around kids that's genuinely good-hearted.
Yeah.
And Herbert was one of those kids.
Yeah.
He was running around in the streets, he doing whatever, but when Herb would come sit down with me in 210 and talk to me, I could see into him, and I knew he was a good person. So it didn't surprise me at all when I heard that he had purchased the school for the purpose of trying to build a community center with all types of resources for the people in those communities. It didn't surprise me not one bit, because that's the type of person he is.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we all should try to aspire to be. We should all try to be inspirational when it comes to our communities, to try to give back, to try to assist, especially if you've had some success and you're able to do that, monetarily, financially, to give back. So I think that's hats off to her, man. I think that's a really, really beautiful thing that he's doing, and I wish him the most success in that project. Yes. I can't wait to see it like totally up and running off the ground.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's definitely amazing. So before we wrap up, I do want to ask you, what are your plans with the 50? Because I know you spoke to me and you said that you want to turn it into a documentary. So just give my audience a little bit about what you intend to do, or share as much information as you're willing to.
Okay, so right now, in reference to the 50, it's in the conceptualization stages. All right, I know that there's something that has to be done with this project. Again, I call it the 50. There were 50 students that got killed during that time. Each one of them has a story. Some of them are amazing. Some of them are horrific. Some of them are truly very sad. Okay, I had, of that 50 students, there was only one female that was killed during that time. She, and I don't mean to be explicit or anything like that, but she got shot in the head, and she had a 1-month-old child. Okay, her story needs to be told. Someone needs to speak on that incident, why that happened, and why it should never happen again.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? I have another student on the wall that's not dead, but I put him with the 50, and the reason is because he killed 2 police officers. And he'll never see the light of day again, so he might as well be dead. You understand what I'm saying? I use him as a teaching tool. When I say I use that wall as a tool, it was one of the greatest tools that a disciplinary can have in a community such as ours. Okay, so I had him on the wall, and like I said, he's in prison, but he'll never be alive to us ever again. So he's on the wall. His story needs to be out there as an example of how not to proceed in life. You understand? It's a lesson there. It's a lesson in all of them. So I could keep going. There are many. There's one of our students in 2016 had the dubious honor of being the first person that was killed in 2016. A Hyde Park Academy student. He was killed right after midnight on January 1st, 2016.
Wow.
And so it's just so many different stories of the 50. I'm telling you, I could go on and on about all of those students, because the vast majority of them, 90% of them, I had a relationship with. I knew them in some way, shape, form, or fashion. You understand? It's very few of them that are on the wall that I really didn't know. That someone came and said, "Hey, did you know such and such got killed?" And I'm like, "Who?" It's only a handful of those. The rest of them, I know them. But in regards to the project, the 50, eventually I would like to see a documentary where we explore perhaps telling some of those stories of those students from the 50 that were killed, give some background, and at the same time use that as an opportunity to shed light on the issues that our children face in the communities that we grow up in here in Chicago. So hopefully one day in the near future, you know, I can continue to like flesh that out and know exactly how to proceed in order to bring it to fruition.
Yeah, I could see that being a series. Definitely.
It could be a series. It's enough material for it to be a whole season. You can do a season.
Yeah, many seasons.
You could do a season off of that. Yeah, definitely.
So just in case somebody come across this video and they are able to help, is there anything in particular that you want or need right now to get it started?
What I would need is specific information as far as those students who are part of the 50. Most people know who the students were that were on the wall, but I'm sure that we could put that information together and have a list of names, and if there's any contact information for friends, family, that people will be willing to share and help us start building that database of information to where we can go and know who to contact for each one of those students to be able to have a conversation, hopefully about how that the death of that student impacted the lives of their family and friends, and where they are today with it, and how it affected them overall. If we could get that contact information and start building that database, that would be great. So hopefully we can have a list put out, and people can contact me via social media or you as well, and begin to share that information for any specific student. Yeah,
Rouse Production is definitely interested in being a part of that piece and getting it filmed. So if anyone is interested, make sure you reach out to me. I could be reached at contact@rouseproductions.com, and I'll leave it in the description box below. Can you also tell people where they could reach you at and what social media sites?
I primarily function on Facebook.
Got it.
You know, I'm old school. I just do I have Instagram and Twitter, but I'm really not on those. So
Facebook is so basic and it's just easy to operate.
It's very easy, and it's the biggest platform, so you reach the most amount of people.
Exactly.
A lot of people are on Instagram and they focus primarily on Instagram. You know, your IG numbers, all that stuff. But Facebook,
it's more intimate to me.
I like it. I like it a lot better. So people can hit me up on Facebook at Ralph Skyscraper Bennett. That's Bennett. And inbox me there, and hopefully we can get some good information and get the project of the 50 off the ground.
Absolutely. So I thank you so much for coming on and spending this Sunday afternoon.
Thank you for having me
with us. Oh no, it's my pleasure. Honestly, everything that we spoke about, people needed to hear it, and I feel like we should have went deeper into the conversation, but for the sake of time, we're going to have to wrap it up today. Next time, exactly. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to Unpack the Gifted. This has been Ralph Bennett, Ralph Skyscraper Bennett. That's where you can find him on Facebook. And I love you all, and I thank you so much for tuning in, and stay tuned for more videos.